You know that people who still pulls out the same motorcycle they bought a decade ago? The chrome has a few scratches they never bothered to polish out. The seat has that one crack they just learned to live with. The exhaust sounds slightly different from how it used to. They know exactly how much throttle to give it on a cold morning. They know the precise moment before the engine fully warms up where it sits between rough and smooth. They know every sound it makes before something goes wrong, sometimes before the bike itself even knows. And somehow, despite all of that, they love every single bit of it. Meanwhile, everyone around them has already moved on. New bike every 2 or 3 years, new engine, new electronics, new riding modes, new reason to post a photo. And every single time someone spots that old machine parked outside, their reaction is always the same. Why don't you just get a new one? What's interesting is most of these people actually could get a new one. The money's there, the options are everywhere, but they simply don't want to. And psychology says that decision has very little to do with the motorcycle itself, because riding the same bike for 10 years says something much deeper about the person sitting on that seat. Modern culture trains people to keep upgrading. New phone, new car, new wardrobe, new image. The second something starts feeling familiar, the world tells you it's already outdated. Companies spend billions making people uncomfortable with what they already own. Not because the old thing stopped working, because satisfaction is dangerous for business. A person completely content with what they already have becomes almost impossible to sell to. And motorcycles got swept into that same machine. A bike is no longer just something you ride, it's a signal. What you ride tells people something about where you stand. Power, taste, money, identity. So when someone just keeps riding the same old bike year after year, it confuses people. Some quietly judge it. Must mean they can't afford better, right? Not always, not even close. Here's what's actually going on. Think about how many things in modern life keep changing all at once. Prices go up, jobs shift, friendships drift, social media trends are born and dead in the same week. The human brain was never built to handle this much constant uncertainty. And when everything around a person starts to feel unstable, the brain naturally reaches for something familiar to hold on to. Psychologists have known this for a long time. Familiar environments reduce stress on the brain. Familiar routines calm the nervous system. Familiar objects create a sense of solid ground beneath your feet. Which means for some people, that old motorcycle is not just transportation, it's one of the most steady things left in their daily life. They know exactly how it responds. They know what it needs before it asks. There's no guessing. And in a world full of guessing, that quiet kind of calm is something most people are silently desperate for. There's a concept in psychology called the mere exposure effect. The more time you spend with something, the more emotionally connected to it you become. Not because the thing itself gets better, because familiarity creates a feeling of safety that the brain holds on to very deeply. And after 10 years, that bike stops being a machine. It becomes part of how someone moves through the world. Because that motorcycle was there. It was there for early morning rides when everything else in life felt too heavy to carry. It was there for long solo trips that no one else knew about. It was there after hard days, after breakups, after quiet moments of real doubt, and after some of the best moments a person can remember. Researchers who study how memory works found that physical objects often hold a person's emotional history. People attach their stories to things. Which means when someone finally thinks about selling that old bike, they're not just thinking about money and metal. They're going through every version of themselves that ever sat on that seat. And no new model can give any of that back. Here's another layer most people miss. People who keep the same motorcycle for years are often people who stopped needing strangers to tell them they're doing well. And that's becoming genuinely rare. Social media turned everyday life into something to perform. What you wear, where you eat, what you ride, even the way people experience joy started feeling like something they had to capture and post. A lot of people are quietly exhausted by all of it. Something changes in a person when they stop chasing approval from people they don't even know. They become much harder to pressure. They stop reacting every time a new model drops or a friend pulls up on something shiny. That's why some people still roll out on the same old bike long after they could easily afford a new one. The machine stopped being tied to how they feel about themselves a long time ago. And honestly, a lot of people secretly respect that more than they ever let on. Researchers who study the link between material things and personal happiness found something that keeps showing up. People who are less attached to status-based possessions tend to feel less anxious and more at ease overall, because that comparison game never ends. There will always be someone with a newer model, a cleaner finish, a bigger price tag. The person who quietly keeps riding the same bike year after year has already stepped back from that race entirely. And maybe that's exactly why some people feel the need to judge them, because they represent a kind of freedom that most people secretly want but haven't figured out how to reach. Now, not every rider who holds on to an old bike is coming from some place of deep wisdom. Sometimes it really is just money. That's real and it matters. But even then, something else tends to happen as people get older. They stop chasing what's exciting and start chasing what's peaceful, and those are very different things. A new motorcycle comes with new everything: new buttons, new screens, new monthly payments, new worry every time it picks up a scratch, new pressure to learn the system, keep up, justify the cost. The old bike already fits into life exactly the way it is. No learning curve, no added financial weight. Just get on and ride. And after years of stress piling up in other parts of life, a lot of people quietly start building their days around less mental noise rather than more stimulation. There's also something researchers call decision fatigue. Modern life pushes people to make hundreds of small choices every single day. What to buy, where to go, what to update, what to respond to. The brain gets tired from all of it, and studies show that too many decisions over time actually drain a person's ability to think clearly and stay calm, which explains why many adults slowly start simplifying everything as they get older. Same routes, same routines, same gear, same bike. Not because life got smaller, because peace started mattering more than novelty. Modern culture looks at all of that and calls it giving up. It sees someone holding on to old things and assumes something went wrong. But choosing simplicity in a world that profits from your dissatisfaction actually takes real confidence, because it means being okay with not impressing people, being okay with their questions and their confused looks. That's harder than it sounds. To most people, it's just an old motorcycle parked outside, a little worn, a little behind the times. But to the person who rides it, that bike carries something no dealership can put a price on: familiarity, memory, stability, peace. And in a world that never stops trying to convince people they need something newer, better, and shinier just to feel complete, riding the same motorcycle for 10 years might quietly be one of the most honest signals that someone stopped looking for their worth in things. It's not fear of change, it's not laziness, it's not that they don't know what's out there. Sometimes it's loyalty to something that never let them down. Sometimes it's memory they're not ready to leave behind. Sometimes it's just a person who figured out that the ride matters far more than what anyone else thinks about the machine underneath them. Before you go, I want to ask you something. How long have you been riding the same bike? And honestly, would you ever actually want to let it go?